hope you had a beautiful day today. It was gorgeous out. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, and the sun was shining. It just went down a little bit. It felt great. You could walk around without a jacket. It almost felt like spring was around the corner. Beautiful. I am on here a little later than I normally am. Thank you for your patience. I had to apply at a few places, and I also had to do a little advertising for my grant proposal, my business grant proposal class that I'm having via Zoom at 4 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow virtually. And I will post the link below in case you want to attend. The cost to attend the class, because it's an hour and a half to 2 hours, is $35. So if you're new to grant writing, don't know where to start, and you want to start up your own business and you want to start putting applications out there, come on and join us. I did talk to Dark Goddess Suckus Ray. She will be tuning in. She wants to learn so she can teach her ladies um, in the Ugly Girls Club. So awesome. I got to email her later. That reminds me. So I advertised. I started alphabetically. Hello, darling. Love tuber. I started alphabetically, and I started with the state capitals of each state, starting alphabetically, and I'm at California now. So I'm hoping to wrap it up, or at least get halfway through before the wee hours of the morning. All right. We're going to read The Science of Money. We are on chapter, thank you for tuning in if you just arrived. We are on chapter 8. So far for The Science of Money, we have covered what is money, the myths about money, the science of spending, the science of debt, the science of generating income, the science of creating wealth, the science of multiplying wealth. Now we're going to read about the science of wealth protection. The science of wealth protection, where Dan and Brian are going to share their knowledge with us some more. Okay. All right. Once you have become financially successful and have acquired a good level of wealth, your job is not over. The science of money approach requires you to install various forms of wealth protection so that you don't quickly lose what it took years to build. Think of this approach like a pyramid in Egypt. You want your financial structure to be so strong that nothing, no financial storm of any kind, either your own storm or one in the national economy, can blow a hole in your financial foundation. This session will teach you the steps you need to take to construct your own financial pyramid. Okay. Think of this approach. Oh, Dan. We're going to start with Dan asking questions. Brian, let's begin the section by having you discuss your own experiences in life with losing money, be it the loss of a major client, being sued in business, or taking a huge hit in the stock market. What lessons did you learn from those experiences? How did they convince you of the importance of a proper plan for wealth protection? Brian, I spent much of my life achieving financial independence. Then you develop the walk on water syndrome. It's very common, and it's the major reason why people go astray later on in life. We spent most of our lives developing our skills and abilities, building our businesses, and accumulating wealth. Then later on in life, we can make a series of mistakes. One of the worst of all is the walk on water syndrome. We make a lot of money by becoming very, very good over an extended period of time in our own field. We think, I'm so good, I could transfer that knowledge, ability, skill, confidence to some other area, and I can do equally well in that area. Well, the real estate market was booming back in the 2000s. somebody approached me and said, there's tremendous opportunity to build self-storages in these fast-growing communities because they fill up like rain barrels in the springtime and they cast off a very high level of cash flow. They increase in value and all will be well. So I said, sure, why not? Sounds like a good idea. He had some good contracts. He was doing a lot of work. He put together some financial proposals. It sounded very good. So I began to invest a little bit in the beginning and then more and more until I invested about 20 million in self-storages. It was really all my money, but it was all leverage off of investments that I made. It turned out that he'd never done it before, and that the figures that he projected to me were not true. Ooh. They left out interest payments. Oh gosh. They left out an enormous number of fundamental costs, which I wasn't able to recognize because it wasn't my area of expertise. I ended up completing the self-storages and selling them at massive losses and losing a lot of money. My favorite two words in all the wealth protection are due diligence. This means to carefully investigate every single detail of an investment. Double check, get experts to look at it, speak to accountants, bankers, speak to people in the industry, go completely around the people that you are doing business with and get outside opinions. If I had done that just a little, I would have saved myself not only an enormous amount of time, but an enormous amount of lost money that I would have accumulated over time. If you want to maintain your wealth, if you want to protect your wealth, be very cautious and careful about what you do with the money once you attain it. The best thing of all is to invest with experts. I was just talking to the man the other day who works in wealth management. He works for families that have a net worth of 25 million or more. They turn over all their investments to him and his company, and he takes care of every single part of their financial lives, from bank accounts to credit cards to mortgages to savings accounts to loans to home equity. My gosh, got a huge responsibility. And of course, investing, because he and his company are so sophisticated, they generate 10 to 20% return on their investments. Okay. And their clients get richer and richer because they can afford to pay them. Usually they charge about 1% as the total management fee for the amount. If the amount goes up or the investment goes up, it's 1% across the board. They generate very high returns, which the average person can't do. The average person has to realize that the only thing that's easy about money is losing it. If you're going to accumulate money at a certain point in life, probably around the age of 50, you have to start gearing back down again. You can take a lot of risk when you were younger. You can really work hard and be aggressive, but at the age of 50, you start to step it down a bit and start to be more cautious and more careful. So the magical age is 50. And you remember the rule, don't lose money. If you have the slightest possibility that you're going to lose money, just stop and say, wait a minute, can I afford to lose all this money? If the answer is no, don't do it. Dan, do you find it is true that the more successful, financial, and otherwise you become, the more of a target you become for lawsuits, failed business deals, etc.? Why or why not? More of a target. Brian, one problem we have in the U.S. today is we have too many lawyers and too little work for them. So there are lawyers who go out and try to create work by suing people. Oh my. I call these used car salesman lawyers, garbage lawyers, bottom of the barrel scraping lawyers. Okay, Brian. Because they are so powerful in Congress and in the state legislators, they've passed laws that enable them to sue with no basis at all. So the rule is that if you have money, you're going to be sued. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. A friend of mine who is quite wealthy said, if you have money, you're going to be sued 4 times. You just have to take in a deep breath and recognize that if you have something to go after, the lawyers will go after it on straight commission. It's good information to know. Now, here's what I found out. If somebody sues you, you have to defend yourself. It may cost, oh Lord, $75,000 to $100,000. But if you are sued, you must defend, or they get a summary judgment against you, and you will be found to be 100% guilty. If you want to fight, you have to go through depositions, you have to hire lawyers, you have to subpoena and grill witnesses, and you'll have to do a whole lot of things that are part of the process. 4 times. If you don't do any of these things, then you don't have a sufficient defense. A person can sue you by paying $250. I have had every experience where people have sued me because they could. The basis was completely fraudulent, but the lawyers are hungry. I found out about this one lawyer whom you would go to if you ever wanted to sue somebody. He put in a standard form. He put in the name of the plaintiff and your name at the top of the page and his name at the bottom of, and he filed it for $250. Now you had to hire a lawyer and defend yourself. I learned this from a very successful man some years ago. He said, put all of your assets into a family limited trust and set it up in such a way that it belongs to your family. But you have total management over the amount. You want to put your money in a place where it can't be touched. If you put it into a family limited trust and the person tries to sue you, the first thing the lawyer will do is see how much money you have. If they find it in a family limited trust, they'll walk away because they know they can't get at it. What's the 411? We just learned it. Let's say they get a judgment for $1 million against you. If it's in a family limited trust that you manage, you can say, okay, you got a judgment. I can determine how this money will be paid. We have decided by majority vote in the family limited trust that we will put it out at the rate of $10 per year until it's all paid back. They know you can do that, so they won't even sue you at all. They just walk away. It's a very good tactic because we live in such a litigious society, because there are so many lawyers who are desperate for any kind of income. I didn't know they were like that, desperate for any kind of income. They will sue you on any basis they think they can shake you down. It's very important that you protect yourself, that you put your assets into a trust, family limited trust. Your lawyers and accountants can show you exactly what to do. Dan, there are many tools for protecting yourself and your family. Let's begin by discussing a few. The first is insurance. What forms of insurance should everyone have? And what general rules should they be following when purchasing such insurance? For example, life insurance. Research shows term insurance is generally best versus whole life insurance for some people, for most people. Please include some other ideas about car insurance, home insurance, and even disability. Many people also say that today, with people living longer, amen, you should consider obtaining long-term care insurance. Do you agree? Brian, I believe that during your working lifetime, you should have life insurance. You should have just straight term insurance where you buy the maximum amount for the lowest amount that you can pay. You should not have whole life or any kind of accumulative insurance because these are what they call forced savings. Most of the money for the first 3 to 5 years on a whole life policy goes in straight commission to the agent. Today, most people use the expression buy a term and invest the difference. You can get a much better return if you just buy straight term and put whatever other money you were going to pay into an index fund. Your return will be far, far greater. But you should have enough insurance to protect your family if something should happen to you. A good friend of mine, a great insurance agent, said that the purpose of life insurance is to guarantee your dreams. If your dreams are that your spouse will be provided for and your kids will be able to go to school, even if something happens to you, you buy enough insurance to cover that. You calculate how much would it take to provide for your spouse for the rest of her life, or his life, I suppose. If something were to happen to you, most men think like this. But my friend said that during your lifetime, your job is to reach the point where you don't need life insurance because you already accumulated enough so that she has that protection. You know what? Let me fold this page down. I'm going to need to come back to this page later. As you get older, the cost of insurance becomes absolutely outrageous. If you buy 1 million worth of life insurance in your 70s, you may have to pay 500,000 a year for it. Insurance, because we're talking about it. I got insurance papers to fill out. Let's remind me. As you get older, the cost of insurance becomes out. Oh, okay. It's very expensive, so it doesn't make any sense. You may have to pay $5,000 a year for it. Your job is to accumulate enough money and then put the money aside so it cannot be touched. It cannot be touched by creditors. It cannot be touched by lawsuits. It cannot be touched for any reason at all so that you can provide for your dreams, which is to make sure the other person is protected. Dan, what do you feel about disability insurance? Brian, I do not take a stand on disability insurance. The life insurance companies love to sell it because they have such a high commission. They have such high commissions for their agents. But I think if you properly insure, which you can through medical insurance and general blanket insurances, you can probably cover yourself for the disability. Interesting. I really don't know enough about the subject. I appreciate his honesty. I only know that life insurance agents are very aggressive about selling disability, so it's a very high profit insurance for them, especially since fewer and few people buy whole life. Almost everybody buys term, and the commissions on term policies are very low. Dan. Brian, what do you feel about long-term care insurance for when we get older? Brian, that's probably a good idea for 2 reasons. Your children may not be able to take care of you. If you can make sure that you will live in a nice facility for the rest of your life, it's a very smart thing to do. The earlier you do it, of course, the better the rates you can get, because long-term care insurance is based on how long they think you will live once you go into a long-term care facility. Wow. After all, their goal is to make a profit. Therefore, investigate it very carefully, look at it, get the opinions of people you respect, financial advisors, and even a good insurance agent will tell you what is good for you and what is not. Advisors, good insurance agent. It's the same with disability insurance. There are some policies that have low deductibles but are very expensive. Some have higher deductibles and they're much cheaper, just like collision insurance for your car. If you have a deductible that's $1,000, your insurance is going to be much less than if you have a $250 or $500 deductible. These are the things that a good insurance agent can guide you through. I said earlier that for 28 years, I've had a good insurance agent who looks at every single insurance need and proposal and passes judgment on it from our point of view. But the best choice would be based on our unique situation. It's just like deciding what vitamins you should take. He compared this to vitamins. Vital. Which sort of exercise regimen you use. It very much depends upon you and your situation, whether you're male or female, how you've been earning today, how much you put aside. These are all factors that an expert can help you to work your way through. Thank you for tuning in, Love Tuber. Dan. We're talking about the science of money, honey. Dan. Another tool for protecting you and your family is having a will. Discuss the importance of this tool. Brian. It's very important that you do that. My wife and I have a will. We had one for some time, but then the executors changed. The children grew up, moved away, got married, had children, life changed. We wanted to be sure that our financial situation would be simplified. We went on the LegalZoom website. Okay, LegalZoom. And we downloaded a very simple will just to cover ourselves. We filled in the blanks and gave copies of it to our accountant and to our oldest children. So it is simple, clean, clear, and uncomplicated. Now we want to do a more detailed will. We'll go to an estate lawyer and have the lawyer walk us through twists and turns. Because estate law is changing all the time. The government can come in and take more than 50% of your accumulated net worth. They can snatch it before there's any disposition or anything else, unless you provide against it. You need a lawyer who's current, literally almost up to the month, with the latest provisions in protecting yourself against hidden taxes. The last thing you want is for an estate to destroy your family. They say there is nothing that so destroys a family than the disposition of an estate. I have seen this up close and personal where several kids get along fine until a parent dies and leaves some money, and the money has to be divided up. The children grown, children now, that's what it says. The children grown, children now in their 30s, 40s, 50s turn on each other like dogs fighting over pieces of meat. Interesting. But okay. What a parent can do is be very thoughtful about this. Because before she died, my mother took every single item that she owned. Every piece of furniture, every piece of jewelry, every piece of china, every piece of artwork, and she calculated its value. Your mama was busy. Furniture, jewelry, china, artwork, value. She allocated it amongst the 4 children. She picked my third brother, who is a lawyer, as executor. When my mother died, we sat down and did the adjudication of the will. Everything was passed out, either on paper or physically. Then each grown child could exchange or barter items with the other. There was never an argument or disaffection for the rest of our lives because my mother had thought things through carefully. She didn't want people fighting over this and that. That's a very important thing that you do as a parent. You should start doing it by the time you're 60 or 65. Plans run into mountains and crash cars. You should protect your family by making sure that everything you ever accumulated is carefully handed out. Another subject, what is becoming very hot today, is called end of life discussions. Once you reach 65 or 70, you should open up the discussions, which your children won't like. They don't want to think about your dying. But you should open up and say, we will not be here forever. So it is something here to happen to, so if something were to happen to him or her, or to both of us, there are some things that you might think about. Open up the subject so it's not a hush hush topic that people creep or tiptoe around. It's just an open subject, a normal and natural part of life. Then, even without the end of life discussion, they can say, as my kids do, when you die, can I have this? Can I have that? It turns out that one daughter wants something that's really important to her, the son wants something else, and another child wants something else still. These are good things to get onto the table. It gives you a tremendous sense of peace and comfort to know that you've provided for all of this. Dan. For employees, probably the most important thing is to protect their stream of income. What are the best things that employees can do to ensure that the stream of income is not interrupted? And if it is, what can they do so that it does not destroy them financially? Brian, I have no idea how an employee who is earning a living and who loses a job for any reason can possibly protect himself against that loss of income, except by starting early and accumulating savings and having reserves of 2 months or more equal to their monthly income. There's no insurance policy, there's no company policy, there's no other way that a person can do it except by accepting personal responsibility and saying, if something untoward were to happen, if I were to be incapacitated for a period of time, I have to have this amount of money put aside to provide for me. And the longer, the better. One form of disability insurance that you can get is called loss of income insurance. And you can say, I need X number of $1,000 per month. You can buy a policy for that amount in case you lose your job. I wonder how many people know about this. They probably don't. However, the policy does not kick in for 6 to 12 months. Interesting. Okay, this is good to know. They have no desire to give you that money back. You have to be either disabled or unable to work or unemployed or something for a long period of time before they'll finally start giving you those payments. Disabled, unable to work, unemployed, long period. Statistically, they know that you'll probably be back at work well before that time. Dan. For a business owner, what are the different forms of incorporation such as sole proprietorship, an LLC, an S corporation, etc.? What different forms of protection do they provide? How should one choose between them for a new business? Do you have any other ideas for how business owners can protect their wealth? Brian, you and I could start a sole proprietorship right here. We could just name the company after ourselves and we're in business. Is that how that works? Nice. A sole proprietorship means that everything that we put into the company as an investment, everything we take out is taxable. It's like a complete flow through corporation. An S corporation is the same thing. With an S corporation, however, you could set up and take on debt. You could take out bank loans. You can hire staff, lease offices. You can run it just like a huge company, and still all the net income from the S corporation flows to the owners each year. I have an S corporation. I'll put staff here. If you have 50% of the company and two other people have 25%, and the company earns 100,000, that money is automatic flow through to your taxable income, and you must pay taxes on it. A C corporation is different. A C corporation can accumulate money in your company, but you have to pay corporate taxes. Let's say your company earns $100,000. Corporate taxes in the US, the highest in the developed world, are about 39.5%. You'll have to pay 39.5%, and now you've got, whoa, we done went from 1,000 to 6,500 left in the company. If you pay that out as dividends to your shareholders, then they must pay their taxes at their own rate. And in the state of California, it's about 63% all in. It can be an enormous amount of money. However, you could leave the money in the company, which is what big companies like Apple do. They pay their taxes and they've got 200 million sitting in the bank account, and they can do anything they want with that. A C corporation is good if you're going to sell shares. You're going to have a large number of shareholders, and you're going to have investors invest with you and get a piece of the company. You also hope that the shares will increase in value. A C corporation is good for a larger company. The challenge with the C corporation is that if you invest money in it and you lose money, you cannot deduct it against your taxes. But if you invest money in a sole proprietorship or LLC or a C corporation, that money could be deducted as a loss. The government allows you to deduct money that you spent in anticipation of earning a profit, except the money put into a C corporation is an investment. If the C corporation goes under, then you lose all the money that you invested in it without being able to deduct it. An LLC is a limited liability corporation. It's similar to a sole proprietorship or an S corporation. It's where two or three or more people get together, they put in their money and buy a piece of property, but all income can be taken out as an investment, and all income flows through its taxable flows through and is taxable for them. Then, Brian, if I'm starting a business, teach me how to choose between the three different types of incorporation: sole proprietorship, LLC, and S corporation. What different types of legal protection do they provide? Legal protection. Brian, I don't think there's really much difference. It's really subtle. An LLC probably has several ways of accumulating capital, while a sole proprietorship is usually an individual operating on their own. Ah, okay. But I do think that there's a real tax advantage. It's very hard to avoid taxes in our system today. There are 84,000 pages of fine print to capture tax money from you at every single twist and turn. How many pages? 84,000. 84,000. It's probably more now because this book was written a while ago. Capture tax money from you. Ooh, wait. That's a pimp for you. Taxes are almost impossible to avoid. Pimp in the hoe. Again, the only thing that's really different is a C corporation where you invest the money, but you can't get it out. You can lose it all. It's a C corporation. Well, that don't sound like a healthy relationship. You can lose it all if you invest money in the other three. That is a cost of doing business, and you can and can be deducted as a loss against your current income. All right. Oh, that didn't take long at all. We have gotten through chapter 8 of the science of money. Woo! Awesome. Delicious. We got 2 more chapters to go, y'all. Let me put this to the side. Don't forget, I got a Zoom. Starts at 4 o'clock. If you're interested in learning beginning grant writing, it's going to be fun. All right. Thank you for tuning in, loves. Mwah.